It's been some time since we've talked about Kyle Rittenhouse. If you recall, we spent a lot of time on this channel dissecting what went down on this case. Recall this happened in the aftermath of the George Floyd unrest. There was a protest taking place out in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Kyle Rittenhouse was there. He was out there protecting property, protecting vehicles, and sort of a counterforce to the social unrest that was there. There were people running down the streets. There were a lot of businesses that were being torched. We remember all of this. Wendy's and different facilities were getting just burnt to the ground. So Kyle Rittenhouse was there as part of, I think, a response to that unrest. There was an interaction that happened, and he was being chased down the road, and he had a semi-automatic assault weapon, and he fired back and ended up, in my opinion, defending himself. The self-defense resulted in several people dead, 2 people dead, and another person shot. And so he was being charged now with a whole slew of different crimes for murder, essentially. And the question was, wasn't this self-defense? We went through, we did a deep analysis on it, and we went through frame by frame. We were looking at the audio spikes where the gunshot muzzle flashes went off, and we spent a lot of time on this case. And it was one of the clearest cases of self-defense that I have seen, and we've talked a lot about that, right? In my practice, in my years as a criminal defense lawyer, I've seen a lot of cases. So pretty obvious to me. Now, this case has been going on for a long time, and we had another court date today. And recall, we're still in sort of the pre-trial phase of this case. What we saw with the Derek Chauvin case happened very quickly. I mean, surprisingly quickly. Remember that George Floyd died May 2020, and we're already done. Trial's over. It's May 2021. We got this whole thing wrapped up within a year. Well, out of, this case, this is taking a lot longer. So we're going to see here that trial is not even scheduled in Rittenhouse's case until the end of November. This happened right around the same time. So this case is going to be going on for about a year and a half, maybe even longer than that. So I would not be surprised if we do get to November and we're not even ready for trial yet, right? That this may be pushed into 2022, maybe early or even middle of the year, which is sort of what you expect in a murder case when you have a lot of media fanfare, a lot of vitriol, a lot of people absolutely angry at Kyle Rittenhouse, and they don't like this concept of self-defense and firearm ownership and a lot of different things. So the point is, this is normal. It is normal for it to take this amount of time. And we're in the pre-trial phase. We still have some work to do before we get to a trial. And you're going to notice that that's not even until the end of the year. So we're going to take a look at this article over from Kenosha News. Kyle Rittenhouse makes his first appearance in the Kenosha County Court. Recall, he has been appearing via Zoom for a long time now, but this was his first time in court. Pre-trial hearing in the homicide case was remarkable, more for the media circus outside the courtroom than for the legal proceedings inside. And that's right. It was very bland because it's a scheduling proceeding, really. Rittenhouse, he's 18. He's facing the possibility of life in prison for shooting 3 men, killing 2, injuring a 3rd during a Kenosha following the shooting of Jacob Blake by Kenosha police officer last August. All right, so this happened a little bit later. I thought that, if I recalled, I thought this happened earlier, but this was last August, it sounds like. At Friday's hearing, Kenosha County Circuit Court, the first in-person appearance for Rittenhouse since he was extradited. Attorneys discussed scheduling the case moving forward, scheduled for trial November 1st. And this is a quick look, kind of a recap from the court docket on where we've been and where we're going. We've got on March 10th, we had ADA Thomas Binger and we had ADA Jeff Zaff. They appeared for the state. We have Kyle Rittenhouse was with his attorney, Mark Richards. Attorney Kimberly Motley appeared. Gage Grosskreutz is the surviving sort of, quote, victim who got shot here. They all appeared via Zoom, and they request an adjournment of the trial date, and they said they had an ongoing investigation. So at this moment in time, we had the pretrial conference that was scheduled for the 17th, and then we had the jury trial scheduled for November. They scheduled the final pretrial for today, which was May 21st. Some online motions were submitted, and of course, we had the court date that was scheduled back in April today. Before things move forward, the court is going to hold hearings on legal motions that are going to be filed later. And so, we saw a lot of this with the Derek Chauvin case. We spent a lot of time on the channel, right? These are all pretrial motions. What expert witnesses, what evidence, what sorts of questionnaires do we need to draft up? Are we going to be having any motions to suppress or any evidentiary hearings or any, dauber motion? There's a lot that we can sort of unravel here. And they're trying right now in this court proceeding to just sort of schedule it out. To say, all right, we're going to do that in August. We're going to do that in November. We got jury questionnaires. It says, the article says, in cases with pretrial publicity, courts in Kenosha, they've sent out questionnaires that are sent to a pool of potential jurors before they are called for jury duty. Quote, in advance of trial, we're going to need time to build in and send those out, said District Attorney Thomas Binger. He told the judge that Bruce Schroeder that Rittenhouse, he's free on a $2 million bond. He arrived in the courtroom through an entrance usually closed to the public through the rear of the doors with his attorneys Mark Richards and a new attorney, Corey Shirafisi, I think is how you say it. And so we're going to take a look at him as well. Before we do, want to show you briefly a little bit what the courtroom looks like inside. And so over here, let's take a quick look at what's going on. This is Thomas Binger, took his picture from a prior Zoom proceeding, and so he is seated right here. And then we have another, looks like ADA, maybe that was the other Zephyr individual. We have Mark Richards over here, Kyle Rittenhouse is over here, and I think the other attorney was calling in via Zoom. So, courtroom pretty empty, kind of a couple witnesses. This is the court clerk, and you're going to see her sort of, maneuvering things around. Looks like the judge might be behind this camera, the one that we're actually looking through. So the judge is sort of, my direction, I guess. And let's take a listen in and see what is happening here. You're going to hear from Thomas Binger. Remember Thomas Binger, he's kind of an aggressive guy, kind of likes to, sort of take control of the proceeding and just say, hey, judge, this is what we're doing. We're not 1, 2, and 3, 4. Not uncommon. A lot of prosecutors, sort of do that. And a lot of the times the government will just default to the prosecution and just, all right, oh, wait, it's your case, right? You're prosecuting it. So you're going to hear now sort of the Thomas Binger, kind of take charge or sound like he's taking charge with, 1, 2, 3, this is our plan. And the reason for that is because he's prosecuting the case, right? We got to know, what are you doing? Are you going to dismiss it? Because if you're going to dismiss it, that's great. This case is going to be over. If you think this is a self-defense is a reasonable basis for not being able to obtain a conviction in this case, well, just go ahead and dismiss it. That's it. So you let the government go first and then the defense responds. So we're going to do that right now. So this is Thomas Binger in court today on the Kyle Rittenhouse case.
Referring to the case of state against Kyle Rittenhouse. This is here for pretrial today. And, what's up?
Your Honor, we have picked a trial date of November 1st. The parties have been working on discovery issues. I think most of the discovery issues are resolved, although the defense has informed me they're requesting an additional item from the autopsy of Mr. Rosenbaum that I will get to them as quickly as possible. From my point of view, Your Honor, I think there are 3 deadline issues that we need to address at some point here. One is a deadline for the filing of motions. Counsel had proposed a deadline of July 1st, and I think that's reasonable with the court's approval. Second of all, it's my understanding the defense has some experts that they wish to use in this case. I would like to ask that a deadline be set for the disclosure of those witnesses, and then the state may need some time to identify potential witnesses to rebut those experts, depending on the issues. The third deadline question that I have is with regard to jury questionnaires. I think the parties are in agreement that this is a case where we will need jury questionnaires. That's going to be a process that's going to take some time to draft them up for the parties and the court to review them and come to some agreement on them. And then, of course, in advance of trial, we're going to need to build in time for those to be sent out and returned by the jurors and time for the parties to be able to analyze them before jury selection.
Okay, so, kind of standard stuff. I want to go through a couple quick things. So number one, he mentioned, you may not have heard it because he's, of course, wearing a mask. I thought that we were done with that, but apparently they're all wearing masks still. So, they're all talking behind their garbs and we can't understand what they're saying. But if you missed it, he said specifically that the defense was waiting for some additional information from the Rosenbaum autopsy. And Rosenbaum was one of the guys who was shot and killed, obviously, during this ordeal. So I'm curious to see what they're looking for. Is this drugs? Is there some sort of other, material evidence that may be a part of that autopsy, like a toxicology report that maybe says that, he was on methamphetamines or cocaine or something that maybe would have been an upper or stimulant that would have caused him. If you recall this, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that Rosenbaum was the first person who was sort of chasing him, the kind of the person who initiated the entire incident. And so the question would be, well, maybe he was very angry or sort of jacked up on drugs, and maybe that is part of the defense. That's going to be showing that he was the aggressor. He was the person initiating the entire incident. So they're waiting on that. Thomas Binger is going to get that information over to Rittenhouse and his defense team. They were also talking about some motions. Motion deadlines in July. Sounds pretty reasonable. Nothing really to comment on there. They were also talking about expert witnesses and their disclosures. And so recall back, if you've been with us for a little while, we did this with the Chauvin trial where we were analyzing the different expert witnesses from different sides. Now, in a trial, you don't just get to show up with your experts and just say, hey, I got Johnny, Lisa, and Billy here. We're going to testify about blood results. You can't do that. You got to disclose that to the government. You got to say, hey, we got Johnny, Billy, and Lisa, and they're all going to talk about blood results. You're on notice now. If you have anything you need from them or you got any questions for them, let's hash that out now, because they're coming into court. They're going to be ready to rock and roll. So the government, of course, wants to know, does the defense have any expert witnesses? And if so, then disclose those over to us. And then, as we saw from the article from the Star Tribune, sounds like was that the Star Tribune? No, that was Kenosha something. Star Tribune, I think, was from Minneapolis. But this was something where there's a media circus. We saw that from the article. They needed to bring Kyle Rittenhouse and his defense attorney in the back door because it was a circus. They couldn't get in. And you can see inside the courtroom, it's a little bit different, right? Not a lot of activity, but outside the media is ready to pounce on this thing. So then the question becomes, what do the potential jurors look like? We're going to be in the same thing that we went through with Chauvin again. They're going to have to send out these questionnaires, and they're going to have to say, hey, what do you know about the case? Did you see the video? Did you see the news story? Maybe the city council out of Kenosha is going to settle for $30 million. Did you hear about that? Is Maxine Waters going to parachute in from California and get involved in this case too? Well, we will see. So there's a lot there. They're going to have to send out jury questionnaires to those jurors because, as we know, we're going to go through a lot of jurors to get whittled down into a panel. We're going to go through the same thing that we went through with Chauvin. So Thomas Binger kind of kicked us off back from Kenosha News. The hearing itself, if you'll notice, it just lasted 10 minutes. Not a lot of time. Outside the courtroom, there was a large security presence with dozens of Kenosha County Sheriff deputies on hand, both in the hallways and outside. In front of the steps to the building, a small number of people were protesting, but they were focusing on another case happening at the same time, that of Clyde McLemore, a BLM protester charged with the felony for an incident at the public safety building during a protest for the Blake shooting, which must have been the Jacob Blake shooting. Both inside and out, there were a large number of television cameras, photographers coming, became one of the most politically divisive criminal cases in the country. At the hearing, Schroeder set a July 1 deadline for attorneys to file motions in the case and an August 1 deadline for the defense to disclose any expert witnesses they plan to call for trial. Richard said during the hearing that two of the expert witnesses he hopes to call are medical examiners. Rittenhouse is, for now, next expected to appear in court on September 17th for a motion hearing. So what kind of experts, what kind of medical examiners are we going to be looking at? We're probably going to be looking at bullet entries and maybe toxicology reports. So they've got two, it sounds like, that they are discussing. And if it's going to be a self-defense case, recall from the video that Kyle was sort of running away, and it looks like, because he sort of dips behind a dark area where we can't really see what happens. He goes through a car and behind, kind of around the corner, we hear some gunshots, and then he comes back around the other side of the corner from the video angle that we've all seen. And, the question is, what happened in that dark little shadowy area? Were the bullets coming out of Rittenhouse's guns? Were those going into let's say, the front of Rosenbaum's body because he was an aggressor chasing Kyle Rittenhouse? Or was he running away, right? Were the bullet holes in the back or the sides or the neck? Or what is the government going to say about the autopsy? Was this something that looks more like murder when we're able to see what the autopsy looks like, or what? So they are now disclosing experts. We know the defense has at least something to say about all that. The aim of the court in setting dates and deadlines for attorneys is to argue what evidence will be allowed at the trial, and then to create a schedule. If we need to adjourn the trial in the end, that's something that can happen, but I think we all wanted this November 1 trial date, Binger said during the hearing. So we'll see if it happens in November. It sounds reasonable. I would like to see it, of course, be heard, because I always say that justice delayed is justice denied. This is the second attorney who is now on Kyle Rittenhouse's case. So Corey Sharafi is now on the case, along with Mark Richards, who is another attorney there. This is from his website, so, you know, it's attorney talk, so just take that with a grain of salt. We have it on our website, too. Okay, I'm not talking anything badly about it, but you just got to keep in mind, right? He devotes his legal career to solely to defending individuals charged with criminal and drunk driving offenses. He handles cases, Wisconsin state law, federal law, drunk driving charges. He's a former prosecutor. Began his career as an assistant district attorney, handling criminal matters ranging from disorderly conduct to homicide. He provides his experience to clients, all sorts of criminal charges, drunk driving, DUI, drug offenses, discons, felony. We got some child porn, all sorts of good stuff there. So he was named a rising star by Super Lawyers, 2.5% top. So all this stuff is nice. He earned his law degree, New York School of Law, admitted to practice law in Wisconsin, and now he's located in Madison, Wisconsin. Okay, so yeah, he's a former prosecutor. You know, I know that, all right, that's fine. He's a former prosecutor, but I guess it's okay if you want to be a prosecutor and then come over to the good side. I mean, if you want to go that route, that's fine. I would prefer you just kind of skip that whole, just join the light side. Stop. Don't go to the dark side. It's not good over there. Be on the side of freedom and justice and America. Pure blood defense attorneys. Good stuff. Now, we have the defense attorneys. Oh my gosh, look how much better looking these guys are just in general. Really nice pictures. Beautiful, handsome. We have Mark Richards down here, and so he's responding now to Thomas Binger, who, of course, we just heard him flesh out what he wants to do in the case. And then we have the new attorney, who I don't actually see in the courtroom, but I think he was zooming in on this. So let's listen in and see what Mr. Richards is doing to respond.
All right, Mr. Richards.
I agree with that, Your Honor. I think July 1st to have the motions filed is fine. I think disclosure of the experts, one of the experts, well, two of the experts is dependent upon getting some of the discovery that we still need regarding Mr. Rosenbaum. So when we receive that, I think we'll be able to know where we're going with that. So I'm a little hesitant to say July 1st to put forth experts. I can name them. I don't know that the reports will be done. There are some other outstanding discovery issues, but we're working through those. I've spoke to Mr. Binger about them. I think those will resolve. We'll file a formal discovery demand with any motions seeking what we need before July 1st. I think that's a good way to handle it.
All right, so that's actually good news. We're hearing that there's going to be some more developments. We're going to file a formal discovery demand. If you actually go over to Kyle Rittenhouse's case on Kenosha's website, you're going to see that there's not a lot of activity there. There's just not much for us as people who are curious what's happening to sink our teeth into. Of course, they have no obligation to do that, but I want it. Dang it. So now that we're going to start seeing some motion, some more substantive stuff being filed, both directions, that's good. We're going to have some more stuff to analyze and discuss. Hopefully, we have the November 1st trial date, and we can just drive right to that. Let's take a quick look at the docket before we get out of here and listen to the judge. We'll notice that we have the court date. We have notes from the movement. Looks like they moved a date. Then we have this. This is the new attorney. So we have a notice of retainer. Attorney Corey Chifarisi filed it today, and so he was in court today. 521 final pre-trial conference. Bruce Schroeder's court says that Binger and Zapp appeared in court. Defense, along with Mark Richards and attorney Corey Chifarisi, appeared in court. Appearances via Zoom. We had attorney Anand Swathathian and Kimberly Motley, and so these two attorneys, I believe, are now representing some of the victims. So I forget who Kimberly Motley was representing. She said it at the beginning. But we'll see. We'll learn more about that when they start filing motions or making claims. Parties report they are working on discovery. State requests the court set a deadline on motions. Defense has no objections. Motion filing deadline by 7/1. Defense to disclose experts by 8/1. Includes any filing of any expert reports. So we've got some important dates coming up. Parties to have their jury questions also by August 1. And then we have a final pretrial conference and a motion hearing scheduled for September 17th at 10 a.m. Judgment and what is this? Jury trial scheduled for November 1st, so they didn't move that. And then the approximate length of the trial is 2 weeks. So that it was just basically a scheduling conference. All we really had today. Here is the judge now clearing up the rest of the docket.
Can we delay everything until the 17th of September?
I think so.
That's fine.
Sure.
So that 7/28 date is off, and motion day is, and the pretrial will be the 17th of September. Okay, anything else?
No.
No, not from us, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Enjoy the day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy the day. That's it, right? 11 minutes. So not a lot of action there, but some good stuff. We're starting to see some momentum, I think, going this way. It sounds like we've got some pretty hard dates that are scheduled. We have August, September, and then we've got November. Maybe we'll have a trial this year. I would like to see that. So let's take some questions over from watchingthewatchers.locals.com, which is where you can ask questions, support the show, and then, of course, join us for all the fun things that we do over there, and we have a lot coming up. First one in the house is from E. Dantes. Says, your reporting of Rittenhouse last year was par excellence. Your coverage of all the angles and nuances is what brought me to your channel in the first place. Keep it up. Well, thank you, Edon Tess. I really appreciate that. You know, it is such an interesting case. We are going to continue to sink our teeth into this one. I really have kind of an emotional attachment to this one. I think it's very important that there's a strong line in the sand drawn on this for all self-defense cases. I appreciate you making that comment. I thought it was good too. YouTube didn't like it, so they demonetized us for that and other videos doing those breakdowns, which is so unfortunate because I think they're just great. They're a lot of fun and we can learn things together, but YouTube doesn't like that. Anyways, we'll sort through that as well. Next up, we got Nadar Blasier says, I think it was WAPO, but I'm not 100% sure, but the Democrat state media is already trying to discredit one of the witnesses, Richie, which was one of the journalists that was there to cover the riots. They called him a far right-winger and all that good stuff. They don't even try to hide it anymore. Yeah, well, it works. It works. Why wouldn't they, right? Why wouldn't they just try to do everything they did like they did in the Chauvin case? Because it worked out for them. We have Farmer's daughter is in the house, says, good evening. Off the subject, but I was thinking about the COVID vaccine. We only required one measles vaccine, one polio vaccine. You need the flu shot yearly if you wish. You need a booster shot for tetanus. Now they're talking about having boosters for COVID at some point. Is this even a vaccine? I have my doubts. Well, I don't know. Farmer's daughter. I can't comment on that, of course, right? Obviously, I'm not a medical doctor, and you got to go talk to your medical doctor about what to do about all of that. But I know the goalposts keep changing all the time. Was it Fauci who's out there now saying, yeah, booster shots now. You need a booster shot. Okay, fine. So good questions. Thank you for all of those, Farmer's daughter. And thanks for making me, am I blushing a little bit, kind of uncomfortable? No, I'm not. Not at all. It's just COVID. So thank you for those questions. Watchingthewatchers.locals.com is where to ask them. And we appreciate all the love and support over there.